Hello, Gold Derbyites. Welcome back to another edition of Awards Magnet. I'm Deputy Editor Ethan Alter, joined by our senior editors Kevin Sullivan and Mia McNeese. And today we are taking part in a Best Picture thought experiment. Last week we learned what the 10 Best Picture nominees were for this cycle. And it's pretty clear we already kind of have a frontrunner, which is one battle after another, as we've discussed multiple times. But there are other a possible spoiler in the mix with Sinners. Those two definitely seem to be the frontrunners right now. Now that we have this final 10, we thought it would be fun to go through and really make the case for each movie on this list, because there's some great films in the mix. I would say this is one of the most diverse and interesting Best Picture years we've had in a while. Would you two agree, Mia, Kevin? Do you think this is a really good batch of movies?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I love, there's a lot of foreign films, there's a lot of genres, there's just a huge mix. And we did see some surprises with the nominations that may kind of tilt things. I agree. There are two frontrunners, but I'm, excited to discuss what else might happen that night.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're seeing, this evolving academy kind of writ large in the list of nominees, and I think the changes we're seeing are exciting, and it's been a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking back over the past few years of Best Picture nominations, and I think this is probably the strongest one in a while. I mean, the last one that was really interesting was the Everything Everywhere All at Once year. There were quite a lot of interesting movies in the mix that year as well. Before that one wound up winning, and a lot of different ways it could go. This feels a little more like the Oppenheimer year, where we kind of know where things are headed, as we've said. But again, that's part of the fun of the thought experiment. Just like saying, okay, what would an alternate version of what other films have some narratives in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Oppenheimer year is a good comparison too, because I think what you're looking at is two films kind of hovering around that number one spot that have, studios backing them and made a decent amount of money, which is really exciting.
Right, absolutely. And the other cool thing about the Oppenheimer year, that was the last time we had a Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone joint in Poor Things. So, and we have that again this year. So notable that 2 years later, they're back in the mix for Bugonia. And we'll start with Bugonia. We're going to go alphabetical order through the 10 nominees for Best Picture.
It's fine. It's cool.
Definitely, it's a reflection, obviously, the nomination of just how much the Academy loves the Emma Yorgos joints. The Favorite got nominated. Poor Things got nominated. I think it honestly could have had a shot at winning had it not been for the Oppenheimer machine back that year. It was really, really beloved. So probably not a surprise that this one made it. Kinds of Kindness was the only one that missed, because that was really offbeat. I think they kind of course corrected with Begonia, a little more relatable, a little more fun for people. So definitely for me, in terms of making the case for that one, it's just the love around those two, and just and how this relationship they've built, the collaboration they've built, how much they're admired within the industry. I think that speaks a lot. Eventually, I think one of their collaborations is going to win Best Picture, and so that would be my case for Begonia this year. And also, as a remake of a foreign language film, it's interesting. The only other English language remake of a foreign language film that's won Best Picture was The Departed, Martin Scorsese's remake of Infernal Affairs, which was almost exactly 20 years ago. So that's just a neat little factoid. It would be interesting to see if history repeated itself 20 years later. That's a fun thing I think Begonia benefiting from. But what would be your cases for Begonia as a possible Best Picture winner?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can just argue that it's already gotten a ton of critical acclaim, for Oscar nominations. I think there's 5 BAFTA nominations, 3 Golden Globe nominations. So they're getting a ton of nominations. It's just a really tough year. I don't think this is going to be their year in particular. But again, they're getting recognized by all the major, awards bodies and guilds. And like you said, just the partnership between this director and this actress is significant for the Academy. Are they going to get it this year? Probably not, but they have received a lot of nominations and recognition for this film so far.
Yeah, I think especially what we see in terms of the Academy with Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone, you have a collaboration that is, would kind of draw the comparisons of, Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro, and then Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio, except, this one has a woman in it. So, of course, it's not getting called out like those do by the film bros. But, yeah, you have two really strong collaborators who are interested in making fascinating work that really kind of pushes the boundaries. And in Emma Stone, you have a lauded actress who people really like. And I think it's kind of how the movie star model has evolved, where you have these bankable stars really pushing in championing visionary talents. It's funny now to think of Yorgos as kind of this award shoe-in when he really was this kind of freak of of uh, of European and indie cinema. I welcome everyone to go watch Barry Keoghan pound some spaghetti and Killing of a Sacred Deer, and go even further back. That's not even as bad as it gets. But yeah, it's I love seeing the Academy embrace these two working together. I'm so happy that they found each other and continue to work together. But yeah, I think in terms of like a narrative that's actually going to separate itself out and have a front runner on their hands, it's going to have to be something that really blows people away or kind of comes out of nowhere, because it is, I would this year compared to the Ryan Johnson problem of writing too many good Knives Out scripts, is just that people expect Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone movies to be wild and good and interesting, and I don't know if that really kind of leads to an obvious best picture win.
And scope too. I mean, certainly the reason why Poor Things I thought really had a great chance to win Best Picture that year is it had such a great scope to it. It was a really big movie, and it combined lots of different genres. It had fantasy, it had horror. It didn't feel small. I think Bugonia, as you know, I'll take my own personal feelings out of it. It's not a big movie. It's a very small, focused movie, and I think that's one of the reasons people are responding to it, is that it's really about those performances. But that does make it a little bit less. It feels less maybe grand of a Best Picture winner as a result. So it's a little too narrow, maybe in its focus.
I know we're talking a lot about Emma, but I mean, we can't not mention Jesse Plemons' performance in this film. If there was anything to really highlight or take away, that was it for me. I mean, he was so amazing in this. So yeah, it really drew out some great performances. I mean, I think we kind of always know those two are going to deliver.
I think there was comparisons between Emma Stone and Meryl Streep in terms of nominations. And how many Best Picture nominees that Emma Stone has appeared in, but Jesse Plemons is also really kind of becoming this very regular face in, if not as a nominee, but necessarily, but in Best Picture contenders. And so I think I'm grateful to have them working and doing kind of level work on this scale and getting acknowledged for it.
Absolutely. Well, as we know from Kirsten Dunst's Instagram, she's certainly all in on Jesse Plemons as Best Actor every year and Best Picture winner every year. So good on Kirsten for sticking up for for her husband there. All right, let's move on to the next contender, which is F1. Kevin, you've talked about on our sort of Best Picture breakdown last week, our Oscar breakdown last week, you talked about that movie and sort of having it wound up there. If you had to make the case for F1, what would that be? How would you pitch F1 as a deserving Best Picture winner?
This is a studio. I mean, it's studio and streamer kind of collaboration, but it is probably the most traditional film in terms of like a tentpole, crowd pleasing blockbuster that does kind of make the crossover into Best Picture. It is really impressive technically. I think a lot of this crew does kind of cross over from Top Gun Maverick, and it is good popcorn filmmaking. And I think any kind of quibbles with its placement within Best Picture, it might more have to do with the field of blockbuster output this year from the studios that is still kind of recovering from the strikes in 2023, rather than any true fault of F1's. But I don't think it has the kind of as broad of appeal as something like Top Gun Maverick, or just the kind of magic of that movie, while a really impressive technical feat with some really, really good filmmaking and some good performances in it, it does kind of feel like the odd nominee out here
Mia, did you have any feelings about F1?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kevin, and but you do have Jerry Bruckheimer, you have Brad Pitt, you have these huge names in Hollywood making a really good film that's well made. Best Picture, though, that's going to be a hard one to pull off this year. But the other nominations they got, their technical achievements are really impressive and well deserved. So, Best Sound, Best Visual Effects, Best Editing, those categories are something they could really, place well in and maybe even win. I mean, the technical, achievement for this film is really impressive, how they had to weave in kind of real racers with the film. And, I know they filmed all over the world, and the sound for it all is really impressive too. So I think the technical aspect is where this film is going to really pull ahead or win the race. Haha, get it? See?
Yeah. Cross the finish line.
I don't follow, Mia. Can you explain that?
I can't.
I like it as a nomination, representing a movie holistically. Like this is a film that is made by hundreds of people in different departments, experts in their craft, representing. I mean, it's a global crew, obviously. But representing really how these movies are made. And no, it's not about really hard issues. It's not a reflection of this political moment or a racist past as a country, but it's a really well made movie, and I think there's an argument. I'm always ready for an argument to make space for that kind of thing in Best Picture.
Absolutely. Yeah, a win for me would feel like a You're the Gladiator one, or Braveheart one, leaving aside the Mel Gibson of it all, just as a period, Hollywood period epic of it, or even going further back, going to the 50s when something like The Greatest Show on Earth would win. It's that kind of like top level studio project, a bunch of artisans on it, technical achievement. It's the what you think of when you think of a Hollywood movie. And so yeah, that would be the argument in its favor for sure. I think the one problem I found just watching it, unlike a movie like Top Gun Maverick, where even if you weren't necessarily the biggest Top Gun fan, there is something about the Tom Cruise iconography that you get caught up in, and the idea of revisiting that territory. This one, it's a racing movie, and it's fun to watch the racing, but at a certain point you do realize the cars are just going around and around. And
they have Brad Pitt in them. Brad Pitt is in the car. It's not just a car going around and around when you have Brad Pitt in it.
Brad Pitt is going around and around.
Yes. We could watch him go around and around in cars all day.
There we go. Yeah. That's the appeal of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. So yeah, the Brad Pitt in a car movie. It truly is a genre into itself. But yeah, I think it is missing. I think that's the thing that it would be missing these days. It seems like you need that extra element to a big studio movie, whether it's an Oppenheimer, where it's this big studio epic, but it also it touches on really key issues as well. So F1 doesn't quite have that, but it does look great, and it does represent a kind of filmmaking that we don't see anymore. So, or see more rarely in the Oscar race, I should say.
In seeking life, I created death.
Let's jump over to Frankenstein, which is interesting because that's certainly one that people had counted out back in the film festival circuit. It did not seem to really land, but it's been embraced ever since it went to the industry and to audiences who really latched onto it. And I think the narrative here for me is Guillermo del Toro's passion project. It's been almost a decade now since he won his Best Director and Best Picture for Shape of Water, so it's been a little bit of time. He's talked about how much the story's meant to him. We know he's tried to make it various times over the years. He finally got it done. People have really responded to it in terms of the audience and the industry. The craft is all on display. So the idea of a passion project winning seems to be the thing that resonates most with me. And to see Del Toro sort of finally achieve this dream of making a film that he's wanted to make and having it be well received. Because a lot of times passion projects can fall off the rails and they wind up not being as great as the director has hoped. But in this case, he seems to have really delivered something that people have responded to, and he's fulfilled his ambition in that way. So are there other narratives that you think make Frankenstein a good winner?
I think this one's journey has just been a little more up and down than some of the others. Like it came out and then it got a little more quiet. And then, I was in the room at the Critics' Choice Awards when Jacob Elordi won, and you're like, oh my gosh, people are back on the track for this film. And, they were really excited for him. And then, it did get 9 Oscar nominations and 8 BAFTA nominations, and it was honored at the Palm Springs Film Festival. So it really is kind of, stayed along the track, and even though maybe dips here and there, then it wins something and then it gets nominated again. So I think this film has had a really interesting journey. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the costume design, the hair and makeup, that's where it's really going to shine, and perhaps not the best picture. I mean, Elordi would be very, we'll see, but I think for this one, it's really about the costume design and the production and the hair and makeup. But I agree, it is his passion project, and it's a really well-made film with great acting. So yeah, it merits all these awards.
Yeah, kind of a lot of the similar arguments to be made between F1 and Frankenstein. I think what you have here is a slightly more impressionistic movie with, more of a heavier auteur hand in terms of what Guillermo del Toro is doing. And you have a movie that basically the family could watch. For all of its darkness, this is it is kind of an old-fashioned big Hollywood epic. And at the center of it, you have a really, really compelling performance from Jacob Elordi. And I think we'll see a lot of the crafts go this way. I think the strength of it really kind of became obvious, after it hit Netflix. And I think perhaps people were surprised to see a movie on Netflix that was made so lovingly and was with such detail. I think it's so easy to root for Del Toro. He's just a beloved figure for good reason, and already well liked by the Academy. So it definitely belongs in the conversation. I don't think with this field of contenders it has the strength to kind of get beyond getting honored for what's going to be the really obvious, very showy parts of it, which production design and makeup and such.
And we'll get into this with Sinners as well, but it runs into the horror movie problem, which is obviously there's romantic elements in this one. Same with Shape of Water, where there are certainly horror elements, but he moved beyond that. But the horror movie is a thing with Oscar voters. They're reluctant to not. The last one to win traditional horror movie was Silence of the Lambs way back in 1991. So it is others have gotten nominated since then, but winning is difficult. And so the fact that Del Toro did it before with Shape of Water makes that all the more impressive. He was able to do sort of a quasi horror movie with romantic elements and get that to a Best Picture status. History likely won't repeat itself again due to that, but it's cool that at least pulled it off that one time.
Bye.
Why?
Bye.
Why?
All right, Hamnet is up next. Mia, take us through the case, because this feels like, again, in another year, this could be the Best Picture frontrunner. What's the good case for Hamnet?
Ethan, I was going to say the same thing. In another year, this would definitely be, it came out of the gate strong. It won People's Choice Award at the Toronto International Festival. Jessie Buckley, the lead actress, won at the Critics' Choice Awards. It got London Critics Circle, BAFTA Awards, I think 11 nominations, Golden Globes it won, Best Picture for Drama, and Jessie Buckley won, and it was nominated. So this film, unlike Frankenstein, has really held strong, I think. That we haven't really seen a lot of dips. I mean, it's just been, there's been wins. Finally, Paul Mescal, who I really wanted to get one, got one at BAFTA. So this has held strong, and I think, I'm not going to say it's, totally doesn't have a chance for Best Picture, because I think that, we always get surprised by the Academy, and this keeps winning awards. This has great performances. But should Jessie Buckley have her speech ready? Yes. I really think she's the front runner in that category and has been. So when it comes to this film, I think that's where they're going to lead. But, I could make a case for Best Picture too, with all of these awards and these nominations that they've received so far.
Yeah, it certainly feels like the de facto number 3 in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
If one battle's one, Sinners is 2. This is the one. This is the third one. And again, depending on how things fall, there is a lot of love for it. To your point, and we saw how well it performed in the BAFTAs. It has the Shakespearean angle to tie into that. So it does feel like it's hanging out there. It's hanging out there, as certainly as a real upset possibility potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sentiment of a different year being Hamnet's year, I think there's a double meaning in that, because I also think that if the Academy, the membership of the Academy hadn't changed as much, this is a much more classical winner of Best Picture. It's a straightforward. I don't mean it as a slight, but it is a straightforward, beautifully shot, incredibly well made literary adaptation that has reverence for the classics, with these really powerful dramatic performances, and it feels almost old-fashioned when compared to Sinners in One Battle After Another. And again, I don't mean that as a slight. I think it's just, it has a lot more in common with Best Pictures that we've seen through going back to the 90s and before then. It'll be interesting to see. I think the way that the Globes went, you had it winning Best Drama almost as the film that fit that description best. Whereas Sinners, the voters could hand Sinners the box office and cinematic achievement because it was wildly entertaining, and the scope was really, really huge. But yeah, Hamnet, you have like I said, a novel adaptation of a beloved book. You've got Chloe Zhao, previous winner, coming back, putting her really beautiful spin on this novel, with historical figures and settings and storylines that people familiar with, but told in a different way. It does feel like it has all these different elements that could make it into a Best Picture, but it does feel like this is the movie itself is not old-fashioned, but the merits of it and the characteristics of it do more closely align with I think what Best Picture used to be.
No, it definitely. And in terms of the Shakespeare film, it's interesting to notice Hamlet won Best Picture in the 40s. That's the only sort of direct cinematic translation of a Shakespeare play to win Best Picture. And then obviously Shakespeare in Love is the only other one that has Shakespeare as a character in it to win to win that statue. So just funny antecedents for this particular film.
Yeah, under discussed that this is a sequel to Shakespeare in Love.
That's right, exactly.
It was called Shakespeare Settling Down.
Shakespeare in Mourning. Right.
Yeah, Shakespeare in Mourning. Oh my God. And so there's the sequel issue. We saw,
Yes, exactly. That kicks
Wicked
in.
for Good was not spared. But like I said, it does fit the mold. It is a modern film, but in terms of a Best Picture winner template, it does fit an older one.
And it's only a matter of time before I'm staring at you from the cover of a Wheaties box. You think it's that simple?
Yeah, I do.
This is my plan.
Marty Supreme is a very different kind of film. And I have to say, I'm surprised that this one made it as far as it did. When I first saw it back at the New York Film Festival, there was certainly a lot of energy in the room, and it played great for a New York crowd. I wasn't sure how the industry at large is going to respond to it, though. And it has been really interesting to see that they really have. It really has clicked with them. Certainly the excitement it's generated seems real. I can see that playing into into a potential or part of a narrative, making it a potential victory. The uncut gems of it all also, I think that movie was liked at the time. Its reputation has only grown since. And I think the fact that Josh Safdie, working on his own, really channels the uncut gems energy helps a lot. People who remember that film are happy to see that back here in this one. And then the big difference between that one and this one has a happier ending. I think he sort of figured that out. If I give Marty a happier ending, even if he's a terrible person, but it ends in a happy way, that'll send people up out of the theater more positive, potentially over it overall, than with Uncut Gems, or it's a very different different ending, much more downbeat ending there. So it's been, I have to admit, I've been really surprised by how that film has taken off. It certainly seems to have a lot of support within the industry. Not enough to win, clearly, because there are bigger titles ahead of it. But I think it speaks to the uncut gems of it all and the excitement it generates. People are really happy that it's given Chalamet such a star turn, especially. So it's an original star-driven film, the likes of which you don't see often as well. So I think that's what would work in his favor.
Ethan, I remember when you saw it in New York, because it was like we had Telluride, we had Toronto. So we had seen all these things, all these films, and we kept saying, well, we have to wait and see Marty Supreme. And then they did that surprise thing. And then we saw Marty Supreme. We it was like, it's good, but it's not going to knock anything really kind of off the charts that was already, Sinners is still there, one battle after another, Hamnet. Like, it wasn't like it blew us away and that we were like, now this is going to be the best picture. I think we all thought it was a great film, and Timothée Chalamet is obviously getting a lot of awards for his performance. But once we did see it, it kind of settled into its place.
Yeah, I think I maybe liked the movie more than anyone in Gold Derby, but I think what we've seen here is kind of correcting a wrong from Uncut Gems, and watching not only how the idea of a Safdie brother movie has kind of become more widely embraced and people understand what that authorial touch is for them, but seeing that form factor applied to a much more traditional Best Picture arc, which is this is a period sports movie, on an unconventional sport, but with a structure that people know and really find comfort in, and it is centered around a performance. And I think what's holding it back again, in terms of Best Picture, is you still have some of the friction and some of the difficulty that comes with the territory of being a movie from the Safdie brothers, this is a movie about an annoying a-hole, and I love it. I think that is I think he's a human being, and I think it's a beautiful movie. But we're when its competition is much more easy, it's much easier to embrace. You have a father looking for his daughter, or people just trying to fight for their survival, whether it's from society or from vampires. It's just those are easier movies to love and to walk out celebrating. You talk about Marty Supreme ending happier. I mean, there's still a world where Marty just books it out of the hospital after as soon as they hit cut. Yeah, I think we've made strides with the Academy embracing a movie like this. I think Timothée Chalamet's place as frontrunner speaks to that, but in terms of the movie as a whole, I think that there is a little bit too abrasive to get the wide love that maybe it deserves. But I think that's why we see it sitting where it is.
The likability thing has definitely been interesting. I mean, even among the cast, I was at an FYC screening not too long ago where Kevin O'Leary was there, and he tried to get the audience on his side, saying, "Isn't Marty terrible? Like why does he get to win at the end?" He really wanted the audience to be like, he should have lost. He should have been ejected from the stadium. He should have been rejected by Odessa Zion. Like he shouldn't have gotten that happy ending. So it is a fair question, and maybe that's the other thing at play. Like is the fact that an a-hole gets a happy ending, is that going to make some voters turn off? Probably. I think there are people who would definitely like to see him punished for some of the stuff he does.
I mean, that's the fun of the movie. He tries so hard to lose the audience, like that. I think the fact that you can stick with him speaks to the power of that movie. But it in terms of winning a popularity contest, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if the audience were ready this year to see a-holes getting ahead. Like we'd like to actually see good people getting ahead in the world. And I think, the problem that I had with the film is that there was like actually no one that was a good, like everyone was not just flawed, but then they had a good side. They were just kind of not great people in general. And it kind of spread through the whole entire cast of characters there that were fun to watch, but you're not really rooting for anybody except maybe that baby at the end where you're like, oh, good luck, but besides that, yeah.
And the dog, let's not forget about Moses.
Yeah, but
was
even
the dog's
he
baby.
was like barking and attacking people, I mean, I'm not even going to give it to the dog, Kevin. I'm sorry, just the baby.
Wow,
only the baby in that
brutal. Oh my God.
But everyone in the movie should have been spanked in addition to Chalamet. Chalamet got spanked, but maybe everyone needed the paddling throughout the movie. That would have solved
They
things.
did.
Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. God damn it! Viva la revolution!
We've reached the one battle part. I think we've all made the case for why this movie is the front runner and why it's likely going to win. So here, let's maybe think about why maybe it doesn't win. What's the thing counting against it? For me, I've seen people complain about certain racial dynamics in the film. Certainly, I've seen people complain about the length, and I also had felt before that the third act is maybe a little too long, could have been tightened up a little bit. So, and then there's also the fact that while it did very well, it was also a very expensive film that did not make back its budget. So it was not the huge commercial hit that people were maybe looking for. So what are some things that could potentially work against it, even as it's the front runner in your mind?
There has been some controversy around it, politically polarizing, all of that stuff. I don't know if that's really going to affect the Academy. They're a very international, artistic bunch. So I'm not sure if that would come into play, but I think the next one would be the competition. It really does face some stiff competition from Sinners, which did get more nominations in general. So I think it comes down to those two things. If it were not to win, which I would be surprised if it didn't, though.
Yeah, the evidence is certainly pointing in its favor of winning. If Sinners were to slip past it, I would point to my hard-nosed on-the-ground reporting of talking to my parents, who, and I'll call it the just don't get it factor. I think there are a lot of people who see this movie and they just don't get on its wavelength. They don't understand why it's funny. They don't understand what's new or interesting about it. And they just think it's okay. I think that's a wild position to take. I don't get those people. But it is a non-significant portion of the people that I've talked to who just are kind of met on it. And maybe those people aren't. I'm not going to make any guesses about what's wrong with those people, or you can read into my use of the word wrong. But yeah, it is a weird movie. Its sense of humor is really odd, and put to an Academy that still has a good proportion of the people that were in it before the body really evolved. People might not just not get it, and I a little jealous of them because maybe they're not so plugged into.
But I think the same argument could be made for Sinners. I mean, Kevin, I didn't speak to your parents about Sinners, but like a lot of people
I'll tell you,
also did not get that film either. I've heard, which most people think is an amazing, glorious film, but like some people are like, wait, they're vampires? Like, what's happening? It's kind of the same thing. Like sometimes it just might not click, especially with some of the older voters.
Yeah, I can't say how much my parents are reading Gold Derby, but the comparison when they were talking about One Battle, the comparison they drew on their own was to Sinners, and they said, my mom, the film critic, One Battle was weird, Sinners I liked. Sinners okay. Was good. So there does seem to be some kind of normie understanding that these two are the front runners, and maybe Sinners is slightly more approachable. But I think that's kind of the factor I'm keeping my eye on in terms of this Best Picture. Like, is the presumption of One Battle's frontrunner status too strong, and are we overestimating its broad popularity?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, being the front runner is a double-edged sword because it shows how much love there is for this film. That's a big studio movie, big stars, auteurist director. It's a classic Best Picture winner if and when it does win. But yeah, there's also the problem because it's been out in front for so long, it gives people plenty of time to check out other alternatives and think, oh, maybe I like this one a little bit more. So and Sinners is most likely to benefit from that potential second take.
And I mean, and there's the fact of Paul Thomas Anderson as the sort of figurehead for this movie. I think as long as he walks away with an Oscar, the Academy will feel like some wrong has been righted, and that necessarily isn't Best Picture. And so they could spread the wealth, as long as as long as Paul Thomas Anderson is awarded. So, right.
Eu matava ele com martelo. Tu anda armado? Não, mas eu sei usar martelo.
All right, the next two are both the international entries on the Best Picture list, which is very cool. They both made it, starting with The Secret Agent, which is, speaking of the 70s, that also feels very, it's set in that era, but it also has just a graininess and a texture to it that feels very 70s. I love all the conversations on the payphones. Like, we need to bring payphones back because it looks so much cooler to do secret conversations on payphones and on your cell phone. So there is that appeal to it. Brazilian cinema right now is very exciting. You've got actors like Wagner Moura and Fernando Torres really making an impact elsewhere. So I can see it having that excitement to it. The idea of this being the first Brazilian winner ever is very appealing, and it's a fun movie to watch. It deals with heavy subject matter, but in a really in the context of a thriller, so it makes it very gripping and involving. So it harkens back to a vanished era of Hollywood, of a specific kind of Hollywood movie that we don't see much anymore.
The presence here, it does speak to a few different trends. One of them being the growing international body within the Academy, but it also fits really strong. It fits really nicely in a trend you're seeing in some of these contenders. I would draw a line from Secret Agent to One Battle to Marty Supreme, is that, and in a certain respect, Sinners, there is this kind of embrace of the new Hollywood style and the tenets of that we saw come in the late 60s, early 70s. And with Secret Agent, you see a little bit more literal, where this does feel like a political thriller from the 70s. But yeah, like you were saying, it has that grain and grime, and it does like relevance in a way that isn't maybe as in your face and in your face as one battle after another. So you have the distance of it being about for Americans about a different country, but one that that's issues resonate with what's going on today. And I think as this award season has gone on, the issues you see in The Secret Agent sadly have just become more and more relevant. It's on everybody's mind. I was just thinking today about how will people at the Academy Awards talk about Minneapolis, or God knows whatever horrors happen between now and then. But it's going to be in the air, and Secret Agent does seem like a good kind of repository for those feelings.
Yeah, I think also the strategic timing for this film is interesting because this one came out early. It was made a big presence at the Cannes Film Festival, and you compare that to like a Marty Supreme, which we didn't really all get to see till December. That's a lot of months in between and a lot more eyes and viewers, and people and awards and acclaim and different things. So this movie has been around for a good half chunk of the year, and I think it's stayed. It hasn't died down. The love for it has actually only grown. And then, I think like we both said, it's kind of going on this precedent of these strong Brazilian films. Like we had I'm Still Here and The Fans. And then, getting a casting nomination and just kind of casting people, that look different and from all over the world. And this international body for the Academy really likes that, and they've been embracing this film and could do so up until the big night.
Ni två är ju det bästa som har hänt mig.
Bäst som har skjedd deg? Skal vi vært der litt mer, da?
And speaking of the love around internationals, Sentimental Value did amazing on Oscar morning. I mean, it got 9 nominations, 8 or 9 nominations, which is huge for an intimate European drama. And in fact, it put me in mind, Kevin, we were talking earlier about sort of the classic movie that Hamnet represents. It put Sentimental Value puts me very much in mind of A Terms of Endearment or Kramer versus Kramer. These family dramas Hollywood family dramas that won Best Picture back in the 80s. So Sentimental Value certainly seems in that vein. There's clearly enthusiasm for it. It also did really well at the BAFTAs. The only place it missed, amazingly, was SAG voters, because it's such an actor showcase. So it's kind of surprising that it didn't land there. But certainly, I think this is another film that I think if we were ready to have another Parasite, this would be the one that I think would leap into that spot. There's a lot of love for it, a lot of support for it, and as an actor showcase, people seem to really embrace it. So that would be my sort of like maybe number 4 now. If we had a Parasite upset, the Sentimental Value would be the one.
The terms of endearment comparison is interesting too, because yeah, you do have it fitting into a mold of previous winners, but then you also, what if it was about filmmaking a little bit? Like, you have that to add that to the equation. You start to see the movie is loved because the movie is what it is, not because of its characteristics, in a broad sense, but this movie has been really embraced in a really, really major way, and for anyone who hasn't gone and seen it, the film's official social accounts put out footage of the cast and crew watching the announcements come up, and there's a brilliant moment when Sentimental Value gets nominated for editing. Everyone knows they've got juice at that moment. Like, they know it's going really well when they made it in edit, and everyone's kind of like, oh, it's. And I think that they were kind of caught by surprise too. That this movie is beloved, and I think that kind of voting in a category like editing speaks directly to that. And so with that amount of passion behind it, sure, it absolutely could go all the way.
Yeah, I think this was that nomination morning really, I think one of the biggest shockers was Sentimental Value, where you really think, wow, the Academy, you really got to think about how they're voting, and they love this film, and it's different than the other guilds, and it's different than what we've seen. And could this be the surprise winner? I don't know. I mean, Neon has done a great job with a successful campaign of kind of keeping this film going strong, and the performances speak for themselves, and then Stellan winning at the Globes. I actually think it has a chance. I mean, it's definitely the top 4, like you said, Ethan. And after all the nominations it got on Oscar nomination morning, I'm wondering if it almost bumps to number 3. I'm really curious, what happens with this film or where it lands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely has the potential to walk away with a bunch of surprise nominations. I think. And I think that it's going to perform very well on Oscar night for sure.
I didn't mean to scare you. Thought y'all done forgot about me in here. Come on, open the door. Let me on out of here.
Stay. It's you?
Of course it's me. Open the door.
That ain't your brother.
All right, let's come to Kevin's mom's favorite movie, Sinners. Reach the Sinners portion of the discussion. Obviously, the big thing working against it is the horror element. It's hard for a horror movie to win, but you have the auteurist bent of Ryan Coogler. He combines auteurism with mainstream. It was a huge hit, it's the biggest hit among the nominated films, so you have that working in its favor. And then you just have this really rich story that it's telling that's really rooted in the Black experience in the South at a very specific time, and it combines a lot of different genres and telling that story. And it's so much more than just a vampire movie, ultimately, in the same way that Shape of Water is so much more than a Creature from the Black Lagoon riff. It emerges as a very unique thing, and that's all because of Coogler's just unique vision. And he certainly has best original screenplay sewn up, if nothing else. But I think there is increasingly I'm feeling like if we get that split we've talked about before, Paul Thomas Anderson takes director and Sinners becomes the Best Picture winner, as just to recognize that achievement.
Yeah, I think the nomination record-breaking, 16 nods it speaks for itself. Yeah, and like you said, you add that to the, I think it has like an 84% on Metacritic, the domestic box office, and all of the accolades it's already won. This is definitely, a top contender, and it remains one until Oscar night. I think this will be a really hard film to beat. It has everything. It has the director, it has technical, excellence, and it has the performances, it has the critical acclaim. So it really is what the Academy is kind of looking for, I think, in a Best Picture winner.
To make up for my unscientific polling of my parents, I have some actual data that I can bring to the table with Sinners. I did a deep dive into Oscars history, looking at which movies were the most nominated in a given year, and then whether that translated into a Best Picture win. The interesting blip in that, this is a side tangent, is just that a reminder that the only film to have the most nominations going into the Oscars and not get a Best Picture nomination is Dreamgirls, which is so horrific, and that's still crazy to think about. It's the only one out of 132 movies to have the title of most nominated. But of the most nominated movies in a given year, that movie has won Best Picture 63% of the time. Now, the Oscars, we're not talking probability here. This is a contest about art, and so you can't get too in the weeds about these numbers, but it does point to, I think, a sentiment among the Academy that this is a deserving film, the movie of the year, the Best Picture, just from the way that it was rewarded. I think it might be more of a clear-cut path to victory if its main competition didn't have 13 nominations itself. The fact that you have a record-breaking movie with 60 nominations in the same year, a really, really impressive, one off the previous record movie has 13 nominations. It does make it a little bit more murky. I think it's 44% of the time that the most nominated doesn't win. It goes to the second most nominated. But that feat of 60 nominations should not be ignored when looking just specifically at Best Picture. This is an incredible achievement. I think it's, even less than a year out from its release, deserves to be in the discussion of great American studio filmmaking. It really fits within that legacy of it. It's a really, really exciting race to watch. I think it makes this season, season and races like this is kind of why I love the awards, but it's an embarrassment of riches. And this is an all-timer for sure.
Yeah, and I think, for every kind of Oppenheimer, big director, big studio, big film, you have a coda, so you always have these kind of surprises that the Academy does, and they're not really, they don't shy away from weird. If you think of Everything Everywhere All at Once or, Shape of Water, I think we need to give them credit for being a little bit more kind of not always picking exactly the biggest film or the biggest director or the biggest stars. They're really interesting voting body that is very open-minded to kind of different things out there.
And if it does win, it'll be among the first majority Black cast Best Picture winners since Moonlight, and then 12 Years a Slave. So it joins a very short list in that regard as well, which would be a historic moment. This year, we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of Halle Berry's Best Actress win for Monsters Ball way back when. And it is notable that there are no Black actresses nominated this year. That's the one category where all the nominees are white. So there is still that legacy. So being able to reward a film like Sinners, I think helps mitigate some of those dynamics that we're seeing in the conversation. And also it's just a purely deserving winner on its own. And it really, it exemplifies the Black talent that's in Hollywood right now in a very real way.
Beautiful, ain't it?
What is?
All of it. Every bit of it.
Let's end with Train Dreams. We'll land the plane with Train Dreams, so to speak.
I haven't seen it. No,
right,
don't tell me. He doesn't ride in a biplane, does he?
There's vampires, Shakespeare shows up. It's like a mix of everything.
There is technically a wolf. There technically is a wolfman at the end of Train Dreams too. So there's that. So that's the more relevant. But this has been a just a little, as we've said throughout award seasons, a little movie that could, if Netflix picked it up at Sundance and powered it into the Best Picture race in a really clever way. After buying it at Sundance, it sort of disappeared for a little while. They brought it back for the festival season, and it really benefited from that second look. When people who didn't see it at Sundance got to see it, they were really blown away by just the emotion and the mood it creates. So the fact that it got Best Picture at all is really impressive. It does capture a certain kind of frontier America that doesn't exist anymore. So preserving that, I think it's certainly something in its favor. It feels like another Nomadland in that way as well. It's a very focused piece on a terrific performer who people love, and you just get to follow their journey, and it's a character study of that person. So all those things really make Train Dreams a special film. It's probably throughout seasons been overshadowed by bigger movies, and that's going to continue into Best Picture, but it is nice that it at least made this journey into the final race there.
Yeah, let's make room in Best Picture for a poem. Like I think it. I think that's what it is, and I think, yeah, I am really pleased to see it there. It is a movie that is just really widely loved. I'm glad to see something with slightly different rhythms make it into the conversation in this way, and I think it just speaks to the kind of really easy power of it. But yeah, I feel happy. Like I said, I spoke with the director, Clint Bentley, after nominations this morning, and he saw the Best Picture nomination as a nomination for Joel Edgerton. And I honestly just feel like it getting in, it does feel like it kind of defies the odds of what's considered Best Picture, and does really feel like a nice victory for it.
Yeah, I think really early on in the races, even at Gold Derby, we were kind of thinking like, could this be the small little, film that makes it all the way when, Jay Kelly and Springsteen and all those other films were kind of losing steam, and this train kept, seemed to keep going. We were kind of debating it, but I think, the fact that it even got a nomination and got this far is great. It's a beautiful film, has a great chance for Best Adapted Screenplay. Obviously, cinematography, I think, is its strongest category, and original song too. So it has some really good category chances, but, probably just going to be able to celebrate the fact that it got a nomination for the Best Picture.
And Joel Edgerton wins Best Beard of the Year for sure. It's a classic Frontier beard. You can't get better than that.
And so this brings us to Wicked for Good, right?
Yes, right, exactly. And that snuck in there.
Way in.
Universal's like, you're putting it on there. It's got number 11.
Ethan, how are you feeling about Wicked for Good's Best Picture odds at this point?
I think I finally have to admit that my prediction of the Lord of the Rings factor did not work out this year. We're just gonna have to apply that to Dune Part 3 next year. So I'll expect to hear that again when we start talking about Dune Part 3. Return of the Muad'Dib.
It needs to be a trilogy. It's not a duology. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, those are your Best Picture nominees. That's the end of our grand Best Picture thought experiment. Thanks so much for joining us. Let us know your thoughts, comments, questions. Question for Kevin's mom about other films that she loves.
Leave my mom out of it.
Wait, can she make a guest appearance on this? Like, leave her out. I think we need to bring her even more. Yeah.
But hit us up at awardsmagnet at goldderby.com with all your questions, and we'll be back with more Oscar analysis soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet, Gold Derby podcast. Like what you heard? Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Awards Magnet is produced by Andrew Merrill. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sakura. Please like and subscribe to stay on top of all the awards news, and email us at awardsmagnet@goldderby.com.